Decentralization. In that, remember bullet points. You know, when you are distributing, you know, the things that cause the problems, you know, there's less likelihood of failure, right? You have more fail-safe. You know, so, you know, these talking points. So now we talked about some of the problems. You know, the consensus was about, from a lot of really smart people, was, hey, like a lot of these problems are caused by a central figure, you know, one small group of people making all the decisions.
Well, I think the idea is very stable right now because it's so new, but the root of the problem with money is really credit and debt.
Mm-hmm.
Let's, for example, we're using Bitcoin. One of these days, once it gets a little more stable, more mature, somebody's gonna say, well, I need Bitcoin, I don't want it. Somebody's gonna set up a banking system to say, I'll lend you 100 Bitcoin. Tomorrow, I mean, it's 10%, whatever it is, you have to pay me back.
If you have a store of value, Wall Street will create that instrument.
Oh, it's there
Well,
already.
even without the banking, I can do that for you.
Sure, peer-to-peer debt lending,
Yes.
absolutely.
But along with
and
that,
then I become the bank. So that's really the root of all the problems.
With crypto, I would argue we're always the bank, individually, right?
That's the idea, right?
The idea, that's the idea.
Yeah, but yeah, human nature will still come into play, and people want to spend more money than they have.
and the amount of gambling, so to speak, that you're able to do within markets in that manner is limited. I can't promise you that I'm going to pay you back 25 million Bitcoin because that amount of Bitcoin will never exist. And so it's very limited in what types of, you could say, reckless offers can be put out there on financial markets.
So this is where it becomes self-regulating now.
Create derivatives.
Yeah, yeah. If you look at a salt, for instance, that was here 2 weeks ago, you know, these smart contracts are going to come due. The prices drop. They're going to queue themselves up, and your collateral will be called in. That you can't be reckless. You know, if you do it right. I mean, maybe it will be. Somebody's going to find a way to be reckless and fuck people over. It's going to happen, but at least, you know, now there's more recourse. There's more means to. There's more means of accountability.
It'll at least be on record
Yeah.
that they gypped you.
Right.
I think from just like a security-based standpoint, all of our financial instruments that are digitized today are pull-based, right? So, as in, if I have any of your credit card information here and a couple, you know, associated data points, any of us could spend at any location as long as you poured into that Visa network correctly. You could pull the money out of the account. Where with Bitcoin, if you don't have the private key signing that transaction, it's a push-based system. And so push versus pull, it's an interesting security innovation, I think, just inherently being in control of the ability to send it. You're in the authority, whereas with Visa's the authority, and you're pulling from their servers.
Yeah.
That was one point I was going to make on that last slide, is the value of information, but what about the value of privacy and security? I mean, that's a huge reason why this all came about as well.
Yeah.
You know, we don't trust our money in the banking system because of the privacy issue, because of the hacks, because of everything that's going on.
Because that's why I said the value of information too. You know, consumer
In
perspective.
general,
Yeah.
Rob? I just, whenever we throw about the name Venezuela, it's funny because I'm actually involved in a bit of a project of my own creation right now where I'm trying to send money to my Venezuelan friends, right? And trying to, these are extremely theoretical notions, I think, because what the difficulties that I encountered doing that, I'm thinking, my simple thought was, if I send them something that doesn't have a high transaction fee like Dash, which costs a penny to send, if I send them some Dash, I don't really care whether it goes up or down, it's something that they can hopefully take to someone there and sell for fiat currency, right? That was the idea. Because Venezuelans are parking money in all manner of goods. They will buy as many trucks as they can afford, you know, or houses for that matter, or raw materials, anything that will anything is more stable than the Bolivar Fuerte, which is an ironic name in the extreme. You know, and one of the difficulties that I encounter are basically realizing that the government has in effect weaponized the banking system. They have basically said that, you know, if you try to wire dollars, and there's only one bank, Banesco, you try to wire dollars through Banesco, the government will do you the favor of crediting those dollars in the recipient's account at the official rate, which is 1/10 the black market true rate. And what do they do with that money? Well, they keep it, obviously, and this is the government doesn't have money to pay its own bills, and has been trying to sell its gold to satisfy creditors. Whenever China wants to buy oil, they say, could you please pay us in raw materials or basic, you know, toilet paper and toothpaste. That's an extreme scenario, but it's actually the one that's most applicable here. So another difficulty that I encounter is that it's not something that, when societies are that distressed, people start to steal from one another no matter what they can get. So if you try to create a community like this one, you know, we're lucky because we're not all trying to steal from one another, but that's not a guarantee there, right? So you don't even trust the people that you might be part of a Dash community with.
Right.
So there's virtually no merchants accepting it as a means of payment at the moment, at least in the town I'm focused on, which is 2.5 hours west of Caracas, the capital. And people don't understand. You know what, I thought Dash would be a good idea because at minimum the wallet is pretty old school. You know, like you can still use it on a cell phone that might be 5 years old.
Yeah.
And that has been something that is actually true. But there's just no information there. It might be controlled by the people, capital P, but it hasn't diminished the role of the central bank whatsoever. And in fact, we see the opposite, the weaponization. So we see the Venezuela rolling out the Petro. We see them rolling out this other one that's lesser known called Onyx, which is essentially created by the same devs that created the Petro. And Onyx, why should we believe that this crypto that is backed by a central authority doesn't have all manner of backdoors and surveillance built into it? Why would we believe that the PBOC is going to not build something like that that's purpose to spy on their own people? So we start to kind of have to consider the Orwellian side of this, which is, I think, really distressing and completely contrary to the reasons why I think most of us are in this.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I don't know that any of what we have established now is going to be the end game, but we at least have a framework for fighting back against that, right? Yeah, it's not working right now in Venezuela, but the means are there, right? We see a path towards fixing that.
Unless the Venezuelan government shuts down all telecommunications.
Well,
And then
it's a
what are they
tool,
Right.
and it can be wielded either
Yeah.
good or bad.
Yeah.
But I've read articles that Venezuelan authorities, police officers are essentially seizing cryptocurrency computational devices. Anytime they see a mining rig, they seize it, and the rumor is, and they've been founded rumors that essentially there's documentation that they're re-implementing those rigs and installing them on, you know, cheap governmental power,
That's free.
confiscated rigs, and then so I think, interestingly enough, the government themselves are forced with the reality of a sound currency when it comes to
fact that this
Bitcoin.
is
A
so
good example of that.
such a big part of it's so far on their radar. I mean, the fact that it is such a big piece of their agenda, the government, means that it's a threat, right? I mean, you know, our government doesn't see it as much as a threat as Venezuela does. We're not creating our government issued crypto. We're not, you know, we're just like, yeah, just ICO's chill. Like, that's our government stance. You know, they're not too hardcore, right? So, you know, I see it as it's progress. Is it not progress? I mean, for all the you know, for all the failures, where we want it to be. I know it's not where we want it to be, but do we think that it's making progress at least?
Blockchain or crypto?
All together, all distributed, decentralized technologies, all of it. Is Venezuela closer now to solving the problems? Are the people in a better position to fight against their government because of the looming threat of currencies that the government cannot control?
It's a hard question to
Yeah.
answer.
Just give me a yes or no, True.
Yes.
Maybe. I mean,
No, I
it's
think
better
the
than
answer's
it being
no.
not created at all. So I mean, at least something is there. But is something better than nothing?
What if that something points right back to you in a way
Yeah.
that you know?
I don't
Well, it's
think-
kind of like if you
I
weaponize
think
somebody.
countries like Venezuela or North Korea or the previous Vietnam, you know, like you can't, or China, government. People cannot, cryptocurrency cannot grow themselves, the government has to own it. I mean, they can come in your house, take all your phones or electronics.
Well, they just have to shut down the grid. All they have to do is
Yeah,
just shut down the grid.
But no, but they want to own it for themselves.
No, yeah, I mean, they could shut down the grid to everybody but their centralized computers that they have.
Okay, but if we're shutting down the grid, are people not gonna get pissed off about that?
No, because the grid goes down numerous times a day already.
Well, damn, I'd get pissed off if it happened here.
You have regular power outages every day.
I'm not saying it's gonna happen, I'm
No,
just
I
saying
understand,
that
yeah.
the boundary condition exists.
I'm sympathetic to that idea in that if a government specifically said, we are shutting off all power to you so that you have no means of conducting commerce, I don't think it would take long before you saw heads on pikes.
Well, that's like shooting off your foot to kill a fly, you know, it's like, oh, got it. Yeah, there you go, that's it. Just by your face.
Simple joke.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're giving them the means, right?
That's a problem.
I think you think it might force governments to change to soften up, I mean.
It might shut down the economy.
Very well,
Yeah.
yeah, they're gonna have to adjust or die, right? Isn't
If they can't, if cryptocurrency mature to 20–30% adoption, I don't think communism is a problem.
Yeah.
But what if they kill it before it gets there?
What's that?
What if they find a way to kill it before it gets there?
With what? Politics can't.
Well,
Politics can't.
I'm hearing the story, and I'm
Is it there
I'm intimately
today?
familiar with
When is it
Venezuela.
there?
Well, no, I'm not intimately familiar, but what strikes me is they're stealing the rigs of the people and then using it themselves to generate money, right? So it's like we've given, like they're taking what was built and then they're using it against the people.
Well,
Like,
there's
so-
always gonna be corruption and greed and authoritative regimes. I don't think Bitcoin can solve that, no.
And that's an implicit admission that their own system is a failure, simply due to the fact that they're using it to generate Bitcoin rather than burning or destroying these systems.
But I mean, we've been, in effect, there is I think a position that you could say that by the fact that the Venezuelan people had a way to do something outside the government, that we in fact gave the government more power. So we went for a decentralization to help them, and effectively they grabbed all the computing power, and now the centralization is using it against the people.
But that's a tale as old as time, you know, when you come back to, there's a government that takes the resources that people need, and then takes and takes and takes, and it always, for time immemorial, gets to the point where people are fed up and simply murder those who fail to rule over them.
Sure, but I think the original question, if I remember, is like, did this decentralization in this exact case fix it? And I would argue that potentially it hasn't yet, because.
But I think it's laying the groundwork that allows that to happen much more easily.
Let's reel this in real quick and talk, let's pretend, we're playing pretend, that's what we're doing, right? So let's also pretend that corruption is a thing within governments, where we're solving. I know. It's hilarious.
Is there fear and greed in our
Yeah.
world? Is there fear and greed left? Or no?
Let's go to a place where, yeah, they're corrupt.
We all love each other and there's no fear and greed?
Anyways, like, I don't know, we can put flowers on it,
Well,
whatever.
you know, this metaphor may be a stretch, but if we look at where Amazon is, Amazon is a whole new system that was built on the internet. It has disintermediated, destroyed thousands of businesses, thousands of jobs, etc. But at the end of the day, they're selling knickknacks to people. You know, the idea that this is going to disintermediate the banking system, which, you know, talk about Orwell, I mean, you know, that is the system upon which the world revolves. Maybe there'll be a new mythology. You know, I mean, I have a feeling there's a lot of people in this room in the Wall Street world, right? You guys operate with a mythology that equities are worth a value, and you've got charts, and you can prove things, and most people, at least the layman, will question that, but the people in charge, people who are making a living at it, they believe in that mythology, and that's what keeps it going. You know, what will be the mythology that replaces that, in the sense that now we have a new system of value?
I think it's just gonna get adopted. See, to your point with the Amazon model, and there was, for those of you who haven't read it, a Harvard Business Review guy named Michael Porter published a study called Strategy of the Internet in 2000, before the crash. Read it. Basically, it's the blueprint for Amazon.com. And his basic suggestion was, what you're gonna see happen is the internet is fundamentally going to level the playing field. And the people who are going to succeed are ultimately going to either adopt the internet to their traditional bricks and mortar strategy, Walmart, or they're gonna become an intermediary for selling, Amazon. So now if you're a brick and mortar store, you have two options. You sell online and you sell through your store. So all the internet did was create another means for e-commerce to happen, to reach customers. And that's what Amazon has become, and has become exceptionally good at. My end game with cryptocurrency is pretty simple. Banks are going to see the value in it, and it's going to become a part of everyday financial transactions. It's not going to become this thing that's going to die. It's going to be you either do it or you die, which is what's happened to how many retailers? Toys R Us. How many of them have flat out died because they have not adopted? Blockbuster.
Kodak.
How many of them have flat out died because they did not adopt to the internet model, to the online model? All they did was reach their customers with the same product through a different strategy. All we're doing here is we're finding a different means of transactions that, much like the internet, faster, more reliable, more easily traced. Right now we're in the same time that the internet was in 2000. Everything's a half of a scam. Pets.com went under.
Petstore.com.
How many of those sketchy MySpace? You know,
I don't think
there's
it's
plenty of
necessarily more easily traced. I think
Blockchain?
it's even potentially less easily traced when you start talking about the correct technologies.
Yeah. But think of it this way. JP Morgan, who is shunning it, at some point, they have a website. At some point, they will adopt cryptocurrency. They'll either build their own, or they'll buy, or they'll start trading.
They have resources.
Goldman was against it vehemently,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then this past couple months they bought
How many?
Circle, which also owns belongings.
Yeah.
So they have bought in one of the largest exchanges in the U.S. Right?
Absolutely. The idea of having an internet or a television was ludicrous 10 years ago. How many people still watch traditional TV sitting in this room?
What's TV?
I got some pictures.
Yeah.
Got some
We're talking about a technological shift, more seriously. And what, frankly, from an investment standpoint, we have to do is find the Amazon. Or, and avoid the pets.com.
So how do we do that? How do we, yes.